and we are going to be going through some of the new products that we've brought out in 2024 and Q1 of 2025. I know we've thrown a lot of stuff out there in the marketplace lately, and there's been a lot of announcements that go out from our marketing group. They do a great job with that, and but I know it can get lost a little bit, and there's always some confusion with so many new products going out, and so many announcements. So we like to start this is somewhat of a quarterly review to kind of go over some of the last products we've done, and then what we in the last quarter. We're going to do it a little bit longer this year because we haven't done it in the past, but in future presentations, we'll probably keep it to not as big of a time frame, maybe the previous quarter, and maybe a little bit before that, and then up to maybe some upcoming products as we go through. But because we haven't done it in the past, we're going to go through a bit of a 2024 review to some of the highlights that we have, and then Q1 of 2025 for this presentation. Just a couple of notes. We're going to keep everybody muted for the presentation, but if you do have questions, you can either open those up in the chat and you can type them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We've got some folks moderating, so they'll stop us once we have questions if you want to stop anytime. We'll have some time at the end as well to review any questions if you want to wait till the end, and do it then as well. But without further ado, I'll jump into the presentation and get through some of the damper stuff before shifting it over to our louver team. And in 2024, there were a lot of industrial dampers that we actually released. We had a decent industrial line, but we really needed to expand it to compete with a lot of our competitors' offerings. So we've introduced a lot of new models with a lot of new options. One big group that we've introduced is the true round blade group for our industrial models. We used to have just the CD81R, which was kind of a medium duty product. And then what we did was kind of increase the robustness of this damper. So we strengthened it quite a bit for different models to be able to handle either bigger diameters, larger pressure ratings, higher velocity ratings, or increase the temperature ratings. And we changed a lot of components to be able to accommodate that. Previously for the CD81R, we actually were a bit limited in what we could manufacture. We were using galvanized components, and that was actually a limit for us. So what we did for a lot of these new models, say all these three models, the 83, 85, and 87R, we actually moved to a different type of material as the base material, went to regular carbon steel, and we actually painted to have that corrosion resistance because that's more commonly what we see in the market. And that allowed us a couple of things. It allowed us to increase our manufacturing capabilities to where we can produce larger diameters to accommodate some of these large industrial damper needs, and it allowed us to look at alternate constructions that could work for, say, higher temperature applications up to, say, 600 degrees. Now, these do require different components, so it will be something that you have to pick. And right now, for a lot of these, we're limited to stainless steel for some of the higher temperatures because there is a limit to that paint. There would also be a limit to that galvanizing as well when you're dealing with higher temperatures. But we do have quite a bit that we've introduced, not just through the construction. We've increased the seal capabilities. We have new leakage ratings, and we are currently working to expand that as well. We're also looking to implement some lighter duty industrial models. So something that's coming out in the future are going to be some lighter duty bubble type models that I'll get to when we get to special applications. We've also increased our airfoil blade models. So in the past, we actually had a CD93 that had an aluminum blade option. And what we wound up doing was actually making that its own model. So we moved that option to the CD103, where you can get pretty much a standard aluminum blade. We did add an option for aluminum frame and stainless steel frames as well, but we pulled that out of the model to make it a little bit easier for most of our reps to be able to configure rather than having it being hidden as an option in a model. We've also increased the capabilities for, say, the CD7 and 98. So we increased the axle diameter for the steel airfoil blade. to be able to withstand much higher pressures and temperatures. We've added some different seal options, some blade seal options, and axle seal options, and some bearing options as well to fully expand that temperature rating inside of specs. So there's a lot more standard options available for these different models. There's stainless steel of in 304 and 316. So there's a lot of good ways you can compete with our competitors in the field for these industrial models. Now, we are in the process of further expanding these model lines, mainly for the rounds. We're going to increase some special application project products and have some lighter duty bubble tights so our reps can be more competitive in the market. One other special application damper that we offered for last year was a tornado damper. Now, this is in theory a lot similar to our blast damper, but it is configured a bit differently. It actually protects against negative pressures caused by tornadic activity to protect the ductwork. So it's actually a force that's pulling against the ductwork rather than an explosion or some type of blast that's hitting the outside of the ductwork. To be able to protect against that, we actually had a different blade orientation to match really the only tornado damper like this in the market, a Greenheck model. And in order to do that, we kind of configured it a bit differently. So it won't look exactly the same. If you look at Ruskin's model, their Ruskin tornado damper and the blast damper are configured quite a bit similarly. They're just rated for different pressures. Now, these are going to be at lighter pressures than our blast damper, so it's only going to be 3 psi, but that's still a pretty high pressure rating when you're talking about inches of water gauge. When you're looking at some of our other industrial control dampers that say only go up to 45 inches of water gauge. When you start going to PSI, that's just a higher factor of pressure than say your inches of water gauge, and a much requires a much stronger damper. That's also this should allow us to be a bit more competitive because using the same construction for the blast damper that is able to withstand 15 psi would be overkill for this 3 psi application. We introduced a lot of fiberglass models as well last year. So we've got a pretty full line of fiberglass models, whether they're rectangular multi-blade dampers like these FRP 81s and 82s, or their airfoil blade like the 91 92s. These are pretty low use case applications, but it is still something that our competitors were able to offer. So we wanted to be able to offer as well. Now, these are pretty costly dampers, and they do have a bit of a longer lead time. So they're really great for your wastewater treatment plants or anywhere where they're using fiberglass duct systems. But for most regular industrial applications, they may not be a competitive bid. So we really only recommend it when you absolutely need it or when the engineer specifies it. And really, we see this mostly with wastewater treatment plants, or say they're using fiberglass duct systems, whether they're underground or above ground. But fiberglass duct systems typically are underground for those types of applications where they will be protected from, say, UV rays and things like that. And a lot of times you'll actually see these underground ductwork or that are actually round ducts. So we've got a full line of round fiberglass duct control dampers as well. They've got a few different options for different pressure and velocity ratings. And for these, again, they're a bit expensive and they are a bit of a longer lead time. So our new models, whether it's the CD81R or the 83R or the 85 or 87R, are going to be a much more competitive option if you're not dealing with these wastewater treatments or fiberglass ducts where they're absolutely needed. For those, we do have stainless steel for whenever corrosion may be an issue. 316 is probably your better bet for most standard corrosive environments. So our standard industrial round dampers or rectangular dampers may be a better option to be a bit more competitive. We've got backdraft damper lines through the fiberglass lines as well, whether they're round or rectangular. So we've got offset 3V blades, offset airfoil blades, and an offset true round blade that's squared off with the BDR. Following our standard conventions, so the 80 series are typically going to be our triple V lines. The 90 series are going to be airfoil lines, and then we're going to have an R in there for the round. That's pretty common across our industrial lines, and we pretty much keep it that way. One other special option that we've added as a customer request to kind of compete with some light duty insulated blade options is insulated blade to our steel airfoil line. So basically what we did is we took our CD 45 and 46, which has a standard rolled steel airfoil blade and has AMCA class 1 and 1A certified leakage and pressure drop performance, and made that with an option to have an insulated blade. So we just use regular fiberglass insulation. It's not really it's not as good of a thermal insulator as you would find with our thermal break or thermally insulated lines, say the TICDs. So if you really have some extreme applications where you really need a thermally broken frame, or you want some additional thermal protection, the TICDs are still a great option, but this is a lower cost option if all you need is a little bit of blade insulation to help protect against a little bit of heat transfer, say if an engineer specifies it. There's a green heck model that crosses to this that would pretty much use as the basis, but it does have your AMCA certified leakage, so you are going to be IECC compliant for your exterior dampers this way. That's one of the main reasons why we went with the CD 45 and 46 compared to, say, the Ruskin option, which is blade insulation on a triple V damper, as it gives you that increased performance and you still have that AMCA certified leakage to meet that IECC compliant exterior damper requirement for your energy conservation. Now that doesn't necessarily mean all your dampers need that. Or again, if you want something that has a thermally broken frame, this wouldn't be a good option, but this is a great lower cost option for some of that. One other great thing we were able to launch last year is a much lower cost airflow measuring station that didn't have a damper. So we were able to use the Scout differential pressure transducer with some extruded tubes that we source locally to be able to offer a standalone airflow measurement system. Now, this is a pressure differential system. So when you're talking about airflow measurement stations, which are newer to Pottorff, there's two main types of technologies that are available for these. There's thermal dispersion that you're going to see when you're competing against, say, Ebtron or some other players in the market that use a thermistor and a temperature sensor to be able to calculate your airflow. Pressure differential systems work a little bit differently, as the pressure differential systems use a high pressure and a static pressure comparison to set that airflow. Now, one major advantage we were able to offer with the Scout DP versus some of the other airflow measurement stations that we currently have is these offer a Bluetooth transducer. So you can connect to these with a phone app. They don't have an onboard LCD screen, but it's actually much easier to get into these with your phone, which is pretty common. It also helps with access or with being able to read the data and look at and control the device through your phone if there is restricted access. So with some of our other models, they either have to be controlled through, say, an access panel, whereas if this is up in a ceiling or someplace where access is limited, or up in something that would require a ladder to get access to, say, above a drop ceiling, you can do that through your phone through the Bluetooth app with this. Now, you still have your standard 1 to 10 volt analog output, so you're not going to get an output signal through the Bluetooth app going to the BMS, which is not very common. They typically don't have the BMS running through Wi-Fi throughout the building. They hardwire that commonly, but this does allow for a lot better ease of use and control through that Scout app. And you can transmit all that back to the control system. There are some better options with configurability for these as well. That is much of a little bit of an advantage for these lines. We are looking to implement these throughout the year this system with our own in-house pitot tubes, and we are looking to implement these with our other damper models in the future. So if you do want a damper pressure differential system, we are looking to see if we can implement that this year. We've got a lot on our list, so it's definitely one of those things we want to be able to offer. The one exciting thing that we were able to put out is the HS10M fire closure device with a momentary test switch. I'm sure as you see a lot of engineering specifications go through and you see a lot of momentary test switches called out in the past, you either had to use an RCP1M or something without lights or an RCP1. We were able to combine the momentary switch with the single thermostat HS10 in a single box to be able to help streamline this and reduce costs quite a bit without having the extra components, the extra wiring, and finding space on the actuator on the damper sleeve to locate these closer to the actuator. We were able to implement this at a much lower cost than some of our other options. You also don't have to add an a PI50 or some auxiliary switches to get this to work. So if this is just a simple test switch where you want to be able to open and close the damper and you don't need a signal back to a building management system, you can use this. Of course, if you are using a smoke control system or the engineer does call out position indication switches, we of course always recommend using a PI50 and factory ordering that, as retrofitting that is a tough option. But you can additionally use auxiliary switches in the actuator for that on a separate signal. Because there is no required position indication, and because we are using a single junction box to house everything, it's really tough for us to put the lights in there like that. To have the thermostat and the lights and everything in the same box is just a bit too cluttered. So we do still want you to go back to use the RCP1 or the RLPs if you do need lights. Or the RCP1M if you just need a momentary switch. But because it's a momentary switch, we're pretty much expecting you to have access to the damper to be able to just push that button, hold it down, have the damper cycle, get through your NFPA 80 and 105 cycle testing, and then release that and have the damper work as it's designed, where it's normally open and fail closed. This is a great option to compete against some lower costs. So if you just see a momentary switch in the specification and you don't see position indication tying back to the BMS, this is a great way to allow that to be able to cut power to the damper and cycle it in the field. One thing that we started earlier this year was AMCA certified air performance for all of our FSD and SD models. So we don't have it for all of our models just yet, but we want to be able to offer air performance, certified air performance for a lot more models. One thing to note, some of our competitors do have some of these air performance for the 1.5 hour dampers, but as far as I know right now, we are the only manufacturers in the industry that have certified air performance for our 3 hour dampers. So we're able to do that mainly because we got our AMCA, our in-house control lab, AMCA certified. So what we're able to do now is to be able to run the tests in-house, send those reports to AMCA for review, and get more models certified quicker. This is great because it reduces a lot of lead time that we used to have to build models, ship them up to AMCA for testing, coordinate scheduling a test. The AMCA lab has actually been a bit backlogged for quite some time now. So some of those tests actually got pushed out for quite an extended lead time. And whenever we wanted to actually get these certified ratings done, it really extended the life of the project. So now that we have this ability to test for AMCA air performance in-house, we greatly been able to accelerate our certification by being able to run the test in-house, send over our calibration records for all of our equipment, which we do every year anyway, send the reports over to AMCA, and get all of this done at a much quicker pace. So this should help us quite a bit to be able to expand our air performance listing for, say, pressure drop, which is becoming more of an issue and something that engineers are a lot more they're specifying a lot more and they're looking at a lot more. So this could be something that you could use with your engineers to go and say, hey, now we're the first in the industry that have 3 hour rated fire smoke dampers with and get certified air performance data. Now, I'm sure as soon as our competitors see that, they may be quick to follow suit, but we do have a bit of an advantage for a little bit of time. So it's something that you may want to capitalize on if your engineers are very attuned to energy efficiency and air performance. Couple of new videos. We're trying to implement some new videos this year, and we've got a jack shaft kit available in specs that has a quick video for installation. We're going to look at doing more of these throughout the year, so keep an eye out for some of these videos, but we really want to greatly expand our YouTube video offerings. So we're going to do a combination, I think, of some live videos where we show demos, we show installation, and we have something that contractors can reference easily to help explain it on top of an installation instruction kit. And we'll probably actually increase, hopefully, some of our animated content as well that kind of shows where things are applied in the video. So we're going to work towards that this year and hopefully expand our installation videos on YouTube throughout the year, because I think we're going to see this as a big hit. And of course, if you do think this is something you really want to see, or if there are products that you're not seeing or options that you're not seeing, feel free to share that with our customer service team. You can reach out to us directly. You can reach out to me directly. You can reach out to your customer service reps or your regional sales managers for products or videos that you want to see. One thing we are working on for this year that we haven't actually got released yet is revising the way we reset our fusible links on round fire dampers. We realize right now that that was a major issue. The way our current configuration with the jack shaft and resetting the fusible links on those is very cumbersome and requires a lot of access. So we're going to completely redesign that product, and we're in the process of doing that now. We were hoping to get it done by Q1, but there's also been a backlog with UL testing and quoting that's pushed us out a little bit. So we're going to try to get that done as soon as possible, but UL's been a little bit of lead time issue with getting that certified, because we will have to do some fire testing to get this new configuration, because it's really a damper redesign approved. And because of that, with that, we want to be able to offer an installation video that shows how to reset that fusible link. So once we get that UL approved, keep an eye out for an installation video and fusible link replacement video, because we're going to set that up in our lab, and we're going to be able to show you step by step how to replace this fusible link and how much easier it is than our current design. One other kit that actually has been requested from our customer service group for a long time is our backdraft damper counterweight kit. So right now in specs, we actually have a kit where if you have a backdraft damper that wasn't ordered with counterweights initially, say it was a BD150 or BD250, you can order this backdraft damper counterweight kit and add these in the field. Now, why you want to use this is for that counterweight kit. These counterweights help these dampers open at a lower pressure and a lower velocity, typically a lower system pressure than a standard BD150 or BD250. So if you've got issues where the damper's not opening in the field, the system pressures maybe weren't as high as you originally expect to see, you will be able to order this kit, and this kit gives you the bracketry and all the components you're going to need, plus the instructions on how to put this in the field. So this is something that's been requested for a while. And this is also another initiative we've had where we've got a lot of customer requests for something that needs to be changed in the field, or something that may not be a current option in specs, and maybe something that we forced customers to enter as a line item note. We have an active initiative all year long and throughout last year to reduce the need for a lot of these line item notes. So we're expanding our options and specs to make it a lot more usable, a lot more user friendly, because we want to be able to get quotes out quickly. We want to be able to configure things quickly and not have to call up our customer service for anything if possible. Now, that's not going to be, there's always going to be something new and something special that we maybe not have a standard solution for, but we want to reduce that quite a bit. And we want to have as many options that we can offer as standard configurable options and specs to make your job a lot easier and to make you a lot quicker on bid day. So as we're doing that, if you do see something that you're constantly putting in with notes, our customer service team sees that and reviews all of those. But if there's something that, could be something that's a customer special that you see a lot of, that's really increasing your time to bid and your time to configure, feel free to send those over as requests as well to be added in the program, because we are actively looking at that. We're also actively looking at implementing a web version of specs to be able to get a lot more flexibility. And with these web versions of specs, we're increasing the amount of images we have and just the overall ease of use for specs. So if you see anything that's not in specs or something that could greatly increase your ease of use, I definitely recommend contacting us and letting us know, because that's something that we are actively working on, and we want to have as much feedback as possible to make your lives easier and to make your quoting process that much more efficient. One more thing that's coming soon that I want to bring out, there's been some code changes recently, specifically in the Florida area, where access doors on ducts that are smaller than 12 inch by 12 inch are being required to have a removable duct section. So what we're doing is we're putting a transition option on our sleeve, our standalone sleeve and specs, so where you can put a DM 25, 35, or 45 on either one or both sides, and you can have those ship mounted or ship loose. We also have an installation instruction that we're putting together to be able to show you how to put this together with a UL approved breakaway connection for your fire or combination fire and smoke dampers. And this will allow you to have a removable duct section when, say, on a 10 by 10 or some very small duct where you wouldn't be able to incorporate a 12 by 12 access door. Now, there are a lot of markets that don't require this removable duct section, but there are some markets that do, and this will get you access as well. Now, this will be a standalone product. So what you're going to want to do for your combination fire smoke damper or your fire damper is select that with the DM 25, 35, or 45, depending on your sleeve thickness. And then you can have a secondary sleeve that you then offer as your DM, that you have the DM 25 or 35 on both sides to be able to act as this breakaway connection and this removable duct section. It is something that can be added after the fact as well, so you don't have to include these with all your small fire smoke dampers, kind of like you don't have to include all of your access doors with all these fire smoke dampers. So that is an option for those. But this is something that's coming soon. We were hoping to get it out in Q1. There's been a little bit of a delay with that, so look for this early in Q2, say in April, where we do get this released. That's the end of my presentation, so I'm going to stop for now.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
There is a question
I
from
thought
Richard.
I heard something pop up. Let me see if I get to the chat.
Yeah, it's can you have the DM installed only on one side and the other side slip loose on the FSD sleeve?
You absolutely can. So you can have the DM installed on a side. You can have it shipped loose on any of them, whether it's on the sleeve or on the FSD. It can be installed or shipped loose. Either way is a viable option. So if you want to use our labor to put it on, you certainly can. Now, all of these that may not help for all installations. They may actually be installing the damper and building the wall around that, and having them shipped loose is definitely a viable option for that. So you can do it either way. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Nathan because he's going to run out of time if I don't. I think we're good for now. Let me see. It looks like Nathan might be muted.
Thanks, James. Sorry.
No problem.
Now I'm here. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go through the kind of a recap of new louver products that we brought out in the past year in 2024. This isn't going to be every single thing we've worked on, but kind of hit the highlights, kind of really hit the things that are most important to y'all looking on here. So first one here, this came out in April 2024, was our EXD 637. It's a new 6-inch combination louver. And the big thing with this is, well, it's primarily the section size. That was the driver behind doing this as a project. We do have a couple of other 6-inch combo louvers that are pretty good, but they're a little more limited in the width of the sections you can get. So this will go single sections up to 120 inches wide. And we're doing that. We've got a stronger fixed blade, which allows us to get more stiffness to the section, which again allows that larger section width. This is the largest of any of our combo models among louvers. Now, with that, it also happens to have pretty good performance as well. We've got 51% free area, 448 by 48 unit, and beginning of water penetration is 1231. Of course, you know that beginning of water penetration test, the highest you can get is 1250. So this is pretty close to maxing it out. Don't get too much higher with that test. And it does have AMCA certified ratings for water penetration and air performance. So yeah, like I said, that released last April. The next one I was going to talk about, this was in August last year. We put out Miami-Dade approved penthouse, the EFD 635 MD-PH. And this is available actually it's the largest, has the largest available sizes of any penthouse that we sell, up to 84 by 108 by 84 inches tall. And that 84 inches tall made it pretty challenging from a design perspective, but we were able to come up with an internal structure system that held up to that height. It's rated for wind pressures up to 115 PSF. And it does have a few additional options that are not standard on some of our other penthouses. So it's got a hinge roof, and you can actually see in this view here, there's some handles on the side. That's actually for hinging up one of those roof sections. That would be for access purposes. But that actually comes as the default configuration for the penthouse, is to have it hinges, it hinges at that center, those center joints, and then it can kind of clamshell up like that. You actually can also buy it with no roof at all if you just wanted this as a open topped enclosure type of thing. If there was rooftop equipment that you wanted to put an enclosure around, it's also available that way. The one thing that I feel like differentiates this from competitors is actually the impact rating. So really all the, any Miami-Dade product is going to have an impact rating of some kind, but ours is rated for, it was tested with 80 feet per second impact speed, and everybody else's is only 50 feet per second. And the 80 feet per second, that's more of an issue if you get into essential facilities. So in hospitals, things like that, it actually may be code required to have that higher impact speed. So that should give us an advantage there. We are working on a follow-on project, because this could be a question. We're working on a follow-on project to create a curve design that goes along with this. We don't have that currently. We feel like that was a hole when we brought this out, but that is going to be a project that'll be a release for this year. Also, in August last year, we added, so this is a product improvement, not a new product, but we've had our ECD 545 as a 5-inch wind-driven rain louver. It's been in our catalog for a long time, but this was an improvement to that. We added AMCA 540 impact resistance listing, and really wasn't a change. Like if you were looking at new version, old version, you really wouldn't know the difference. It's primarily the connections. We upgraded the fasteners between the parts so that everything would stay connected when you hit it with a 2x4. Didn't affect the water resistance or air performance ratings. We kept the same profiles. It just, like I say, added that impact protection just as something extra. Let's see, I think I actually have a video of us testing it here. Let's see if this, yeah. This was up at our third-party lab where we tested this. Moving on. So in October 2024, we brought out a new 1.5-inch and a thin line J blade louver. This is primarily around if you're looking for an economic choice for situations where water penetration is not a big concern. It's not going to be a high performing louver as far as keeping water out. That's just not the nature of this class of louver. But if you need something basic and you need something that's cost efficient, this could be a good choice. It is on the smaller side. I think the max section size is only 60 by 60 on this. That's in line with competitors in this product category. It's like I say, it's a thinner louver, but it has a pretty streamlined blade shape. It's simple, so low pressure drop. And our design has best in class free area. We're at about 52% for a 48 by 48. And next, I was going to mention this is an option. So it's an option that's actually available on a lot of our existing operable louvers that we've had out for a while. But this is an option to you can merge pairs of sections together in a common top and bottom subframe. Kind of, I call this a double wide configuration. I don't think that's not our official term for it, but essentially we're building these as separate sections. They have linkage as separate sections, but then we're grafting them together in the factory, shipping them out as a pair. And why would you do this? Well, it's primarily about if you have a larger job, maybe a large warehouse, and say you had a whole bunch of, paired, openings that are like 2 sections wide. And that allows you, if you're bringing a crane on site, allows you to do half as many lifts. So it's going to cut the installation time. There is an upcharge on our end because it requires us, depending on the size of this, we may have to get a flatbed to ship this. So there's some cost associated with that, but it is going to make the installation faster and cheaper. So it wouldn't be something you'd want to do on every job, but it could be a handy thing, a handy tool in the toolkit if you had a larger job, especially in a warehouse type application. And with this configuration, it does come with factory installed lifting lugs as standard to help. It's a larger assembly, so it helps with the lifting and handling. And this would be up to 96 by 96, well, actually up to 120 by 96 if you're talking about a louver with no gem seals. That'll go up to 60 wide per section. We're grafting 2 of those together. So could be quite a large assembly, shipping out as one piece. And then lastly was in December, we have a new mitered penthouse, 4-inch J-blade. This is EFJ 437 MPH. It's pretty much a completely new design. We've had box corner penthouses in our product line for a while. I think we have about 7 different models of those. And then there's the first Miami-Dade penthouse, which I mentioned earlier. This one, again, it's those miter corners. That's really the reason for it. It gives you a better look. And again, it's something that was a product line gap compared to competitors. If you look at Ruskin and Greenheck, they have this, and we didn't have it up till recently, and now we do, and that plugs that hole for us. So the miter corners are one thing. The other thing which we wanted to pioneer with this was a new installation method, because we have had some feedback on the box corner models, that and some of it's just what people are used to, but people haven't been as taken with the installation method, and so it felt like we wanted something that was better, that was a clear step ahead in that area. So this is one. It actually, the way we've set it up, you do not have to have access to the inside of the curb to install it. It can actually be set the completed assembly on top of the curb, and you can fasten everything from there. It doesn't require access to the interior, and it also has a more tolerance of variability in the curb dimensions, because that's one point of feedback. It's like, well, if the curve's a little bit off and, you have typical building tolerances, it can get to be a lot of shimming sometimes. And this is more adjustable and will allow for more variability in the curve. So those were kind of the high points of product releases for 2024.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes.
There's a question from Debbie about something. Do you have anything like this in the wheelhouse for the future? And she sent a screenshot of the Ruskin ELBD 375. I think that's I or 9-inch deep or gravity intake combination louver damper, 9-inch deep backdraft damper blades.
Not currently. So this looks to me like it's a 4-inch louver with a backdraft damper kind of grafted on the interior side of it. So we would offer something like that, just not as a combined assembly. We do have backdraft damper louvers. We've got our EVE and EVI 445, which have the backdraft damper built into them. They're not 9 inches deep. They're just 4 inches deep, actually. I have to look into this one a little bit, but we don't have anything, but it can be, it's something we can definitely put on our list to look at, and whether the return would be there to go after something like this. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Brent Farmer to talk about our first quarter 2025 louver releases.
Thanks, Nathan. Good morning, everyone. Yep, so as Nathan said, I'll be going over just all of the new products that we've released just in Q1 of this year. So fairly short, so I'm not doing a full year-end wrap-up as James and Nathan have done. So to kick things off here, so actually in January of this year, we released sort of the 6-inch companion to the EFJ 437 miter penthouse that Nathan just spoke to. So yeah, just to give a 6-inch version if that's necessary for any type of anything that you might need in the from what a competitor can offer there. Again, just to repeat what Nathan had said, this has all the same features as the 4-inch. So predominantly, you're going to be looking at those mitered blades from an aesthetic standpoint compared to a box corner miter penthouse. The good thing about this as well is it does have all the same features. So I won't rehash everything Nathan just spoke to from an installation method, but this does have the exact same installation method as the 4-inch version. So as that feedback has come in, we've implemented this as well. And that feedback has been duly noted by us here so that we can be looking at this moving forward where possible. So I don't want to get too far into that. And here we go so secondly, we've done in February of this year, so last month, we have added some options to our HZ200. So it's just a 2-inch deep, like a vision screen or equipment screen, as sometimes offered or sometimes called. And like James spoke to earlier, is hearing those options and specs, that increased capability and specs, so that there's less line item notes for you and more that can get those quotes out faster. So two things that we've added the options for mitered corners on this model. And not only have we added an outside miter corner, but we've also added the option for that inside to be selected within specs. So that will be showing up. Again, that's just one less thing to add in a line item note or to reach out to customer service saying, hey, this is needed. Can we talk on the phone about this? This is already this will be selectable there. Is that it? And in addition, we still have the box corner option on this. Before that was the only option selectable. So now that you can have both of these on this vision screen here. And lastly, we got a few minutes left here, but making this quick, we've really looked into, from a louver standpoint, is the specs free area calculations that are showing up on your submittals coming out of there. And again, in January, we rolled out an update, sort of have some updated free areas and the way we were actually updating, or the way we were looking at your free area numbers coming out of specs, so onto your submittals. Uh, There were a few models that you may have had some slight discrepancies between, say, a catalog page and a number coming out on a submittal and specs. Uh, that's been revamped. We definitely went to more of a table driven way of looking at it. And so, as you can see from the example here, if you look at like the top snippet of our screen is actually an EFD 437. You can see the catalog page there. If you look at from a 48 by 48, and you can see below on the submittal, you'll actually see, the same free area, which was common for most models coming out, that these were matching, but there was a few discrepancies, and now that should be eradicated, should be clean across the board. But one thing we'll also have now is, your submittals will also even reflect nominal and net OD dimensions as well. So regardless of what you're entering, you're going to be getting a true free area for that louver that you're speccing. So again, just to clean things up, but also just an added capability there coming out of specs. And again, this, what James had mentioned earlier, is clean up a few more things coming out of some of our programs that are available to you to help you in your quoting and submittals, your jobs there. So, and that's actually all we released so far in Q1. So thank you for your time. And if anyone has any questions, happy to take them on what we've at least looked at for this first third of the year, quarter of the year.
What I'll do, I know Scott Frago had a question about stainless steel backdraft dampers. So I'm assuming you're looking for a lighter duty backdraft damper. There's a Greenheck model. It's got a big long name. It's like SS something or SSWDR 53, maybe something around that. It's kind of like our BD20R, but it's stainless steel. I'm thinking you're asking about that, something that's a lighter duty. We don't have that on the list right now. That's going to be one of those, we're going to have to look at tooling for that, because we've had a huge backlog for roll formers. We've had tooling on order for 4 years that is almost about to be delivered. And the way those work, like a BD20, the way the BD20 works, we roll form those blades and put them in a frame, kind of like a ceiling radiation damper. And right now, I don't think we can roll form and cut that type of blade to be able to put it in like a BD20R. We use a different type of blade altogether for that, but it's definitely on the list, and we'll put another note on the list that's been asked again. I'll also be in your market, Scott, in a couple of weeks. So if you want to talk about it, we can. There are some other industrial backdraft dampers that we may be able to look at as well. So if you're looking for something more on the industrial pressure and velocity range, we can certainly look at that, because we do have a lot more capabilities in-house to be able to weld and roll and form a lot of these products. So we might be able to look at the heavy duty industrial stuff to be able to better compete with that too. Stainless steel backdraft dampers, I'm going to put another note on our NPD development list. I actually have a meeting tomorrow to talk with our NPD development managers to kind of see how things are going, and to see, as new requests come in, we want to keep looking at those. So keep sending those requests in. I know there's been probably some people that have had requests for the same thing year after year, and we haven't been able to get to it due to capacity. We're greatly expanding our capacity. We're greatly expanding our team. We've got a lot more people on board. We've got a lot more equipment, and it looks like a lot of that equipment is actually starting to show up. That stuff we've had back ordered since before COVID. So we are going to be able to do that. If there are products that you've been asking for that you maybe stopped asking for and want to ask for again, feel free to send those in. The more requests we get, the more we can look at, the higher priority we can put to our NPD development process. So we definitely love that feedback. And we are very happy to get any feedback we can from y'all. Again, Scott, we can talk about it when I'm out in 2 weeks. If not, you can always reach out to us, give us a call. I'm thinking you want the lighter duty one. I'll verify with that with you, either through email, a call, or in person. Any other questions at this point? We've got a couple of minutes left. Anything you want to bring up as potential products for us to develop?
Hey, James, Chris says, how about a counterbalance round backdraft damper? One of those oldies.
Yes, definitely. So that's another one that we'll have to look at, like a counterbalance round backdraft damper. The stainless steel version that I was talking about won't really work for counterbalance. So what a lot of the counterbalance one I've seen are kind of along the lines of those industrial models, or very similar to the FRP BDR. So that's one of those I'll put on. I have it on the list as a product gap right now on the industrial line, but that may be something that we can look at, because really the counterbalance rounds are kind of built in those heavier duty industrial frames where they square off that blade and put an arm out, kind of like our BD84R right now. So I'll put that down as a list on definitely a need from the industrial line as well. The good thing is it's probably something that we could implement in stainless steel and in say a painted model, but it's going to be a huge cost add compared to that Green Heck model I mentioned earlier, which is a real light duty versus a industrial, even a light duty industrial. So we definitely have that on the list as gaps, and it's definitely one of those that we do need to look at. We've had a lot. We are slowly but surely closing the gaps on our industrial line. We've got a lot more tooling in house for those, and that's probably something we can look at in the coming months and years as well. So appreciate that.